Cheating is back in more ways than one. The Hautepad X stick has arrived. It's the attachment that turns this It's the attachment that turns this leverless controller into an arcade stick. But what do I mean when I say that cheating is back? Well, I'm NihongoGamer, and this is a controller that I reviewed before. It's the Hautepad X. There are a large number of people who play multiple fighting games, or they like to use multiple control methods, or they like to only have one unit in their house, and they don't want to have a collection of arcade sticks. Something that can do everything. It can be a leverless controller, it can be an arcade stick, and it can also be an analog stick controller like your basic pad. Well, the first way that this controller is cheating is that it's just unfair how much they've packed into here and at this price. The recommended retail price is sometimes a little bit inflated, but you can basically pick this up with modules for somewhere between $200 and $250, depending on which modules you actually want. Now they also have this arcade stick attachment. So the controller that could already be almost everything already is now also the arcade stick. Now, full disclaimer, Haute42 did send this to me free of charge for the purposes of making this video, but I don't have to say anything specific about it, and they're not going to see this video before I post it or anything. One thing they did ask me to do, though, is to not post this video too early, because they were so popular, they weren't even able to launch it. These X sticks go for, I think, $55 on the AliExpress website, or it says the recommended retail price is $120, but I don't know if I really trust recommended retail prices. I'm assuming that the price of this will never go above $55, or if it does, you should just wait until it goes back down. There is a second way that they can cheat, and it's this. If you use the analog stick module and the arcade stick module, is this starting to sound familiar? You can actually do a number of things that kind of don't even work in Street Fighter 6 anymore. But if you go back to other games before they changed the way that SOCD was handled, like Street Fighter 5, you can totally cheat in the game. And when I say cheating, it's actually not cheating. This is like tournament legal cheating. You're allowed to use a DualShock controller which has these analog sticks in them and a D-pad at the same time, which is how we have controllers like the Hitbox Crossup. But wait, there's more. Not only are they giving you a controller that can be a leverless on one day and be an arcade stick on another day. As you can see on the layout that I've got right here, you could just have it with your arcade stick and jump buttons. Now this is actual cheating, as opposed to having analog sticks and D-pad. That's kind of tournament legal. Having an up button here and being able to press up on the D-pad is technically not tournament legal. But since we're all playing at home now, who's gonna know? Now, I'm not saying that you should cheat, but let's say that you're not even playing online, you just want to have more fun with your games, or just experiment, or just make cool combo videos. No one is going to stop you from just enjoying your game the way you want to at home and have two up buttons. Now, it may all sound too good to be true, and in many ways it really is. But there are a few reasons why you may want to reconsider before making this X stick your actual main arcade stick. I'll explain it in a moment, but here's the hint. Now, first things first, let's just show you how to remove these modules. Remove the screws, and then you just flip the controller upside down because there's no elegant way to actually remove it. And then you replace it with the X stick. Now, you don't have to have the lever in when you put it on, but of course, this is going to make it a little bit easier because we can slide it in like so. There is no ability to rotate the arcade stick after this. Then you use this absolutely horrific screwdriver. For absolutely no reason, they use a Torx screw. I absolutely despise them. And the one thing that you should probably check out first is that actually there's a little bit of a bump here. What should we call this? Let's call this the plateau. Let's call it the arcade stick plateau. You do feel it, but the way that I use my arcade stick, it doesn't bother me. But if you're obsessive about these things, it may bother you that it's not completely flat with the rest of the controller. The next thing you'll want to do is consider changing this lower module. Pull this out, and you can use this, which comes with the X stick. You can put it any orientation that you want. It is quite a large expanse down here. I would prefer to have the whole thing a little bit further down, but this is not like a deal breaker. The only time it kind of bothers me that there's a wrist area here is that Hautepad made a controller that has quite a nice roll off here for when you're using it on your desk, because whether you like it or not, you are going to be resting your hands down here sometimes, and having an incline would be nicer. Now, this controller is incredibly flat, so it's not like you've got T-Rex arms when you're at your desk anyway, but I did find that it was quite uncomfortable having this ridge here. Here's the thing, you can also put this analog stick controller in. Now you have to put it in the right way. The slightly flatter edge here goes down. It won't fit in upside down. You've got your left stick and right stick analog. You can swap the analog sticks. You can go into the firmware and say, this is the left stick. You can also change it so that this is the right stick and this is the left analog stick. And that's how I would recommend you do it. Because if you are using it, again, to cheat in a tournament legal way, you can actually have your left hand on the stick here, and you can have your right thumb on the left analog stick, as long as you set this right stick to the left analog stick. I'm really hoping that there's a Hautepad X version 2, where they have like little sliders, little locks that you can unlock and just pull this whole thing off without any screws, because man, I would love a controller that was actually modular, that you could click in as opposed to have to remove the screws. It's always with the screws with these companies. If you're playing Street Fighter 6, you can now play World Tour mode with an arcade stick that has analog sticks built in, and I can confirm that it does work. You can use the D-pad and the analog sticks as analog controllers at the same time. They're not just set to like up, down, left, right digital controls. These are actual analog controls. Pushing on them lightly will make you walk, and pushing on them hard will make you run. When you want to play the actual fighting game, you can use the directional controls. With the X stick, you also get 2 of these gates. Now, this is a standard thing that you can do with regular arcade sticks as well. You can set it from having a square gate, which is great for fighting games, especially if you play a charge character, or if you're playing a scrolling shooting game like R-Type or Gradius or something. You might want to have 8-way hexagonal movement, and this way you kind of lock the controller in place on not just the corners but also the cardinal directions as well. And then the other gate, which is a circle gate, this could be useful if you're playing a game like Tekken, where a lot of players actually prefer a circular gate, I believe, depending on the actual innards of the arcade stick. But as promised, the ability to cheat I will explain, because in a game like Street Fighter 6, pressing left on here and pressing right on here will do nothing. It will just put you back in neutral. Now, in a game like Street Fighter 6, if you're not using any SOCD filters, then it will just put you in neutral. But in a game like Street Fighter 5, press left on the D-pad. As soon as I press right on the analog stick, it will override the left direction and it will see the right direction. Not neutral, it will go straight to right. So if I'm charging with the D-pad and then I press right on here and punch, I can do a sonic boom. And the same thing goes the other way. If I hold left on the analog stick and I press right on the lever, then I press punch, I also get the same thing. People say that, this is kind of cheating because you have absolutely no travel time between pressing the fireball and being ready to charge for the next one. But actually there are more benefits than that. For example, if you want to charge down while you're jumping, you can do that by just holding down on the analog stick, and then when you press up on here, you'll do the jump, but immediately you'll start charging and you don't have to move the analog stick down. For a beginner, this can be kind of tricky. Normally you have to jump up into the sky, and then as soon as you've started the jump, you need to start charging down. Pressing down won't make you move downward, it's just charging the downward input so that you're ready for the flash kick afterwards. But if you've got 2 directional controls and one of them is the analog stick, if I just press down back on the analog stick, then I press jump on here, as soon as I've let go of the lever, I'm back to charging down. Now, if you want to do Guile's super combo, you will have to let go of the analog stick on the final move, and that's because if you're holding down back on the analog stick, when you press forward on the lever, you won't get regular cardinal direction forward, you'll get down forward, and that's because it combines the 2 inputs together. I actually don't know if there were many custom builders who were doing stuff like that, but obviously the most famous controller for being able to do something like this was the Hitbox Cross-Up, which did it the opposite way. On the Cross-Up, it had directional buttons split up around the controller and it had an analog stick here. But what we've got at the moment with the Hautepad X, with the X stick attachment, is just a regular D-pad style arcade stick, and the analog controls are still analog sticks. So it's a little bit more like playing on a DualShock 4 when you were playing on a PlayStation 4. Is it ergonomic? No. But does it make some combos easier? Yes. But wait, there's more. You remove the analog stick module and you put in the jump button module. Let's say that you're not actually playing in a tournament, you're just playing at home, maybe single player, or you just want to have some fun and make some combo videos. Nothing is stopping you from having multiple up buttons on this controller. Let's say you're playing an anime game where air dashing is quite common. Usually you have to press up to jump, and then you have to press forward, forward to dash, or the shortcut, which is usually jump forward, and then you tap neutral forward to get an air dash. In a game like Under Night, you can do an air assault by pressing forward and D at the same time, and normally you would have to press up, forward, and D to get that move, but there is a chance that you would miss the up forward. If you're in a very stressful situation, even a pro could mess this up by pressing neutral up or pressing forward only and then getting the regular assault instead of the air assault. But it's going to be so much easier to be consistent if you have the up button down here. You could even remove it from the arcade stick if you wanted to make it tournament legal. You could press neutral jump with the up button and then press forward and D in order to do the air assault. And it's just easy like that. You just kind of piano your fingers. Easy to make sure that it's consistent every time. And that's only scratching the surface. I'm sure there's way more that you can do. But now it's time to talk about the thing that may be the reason why you don't want to make this your main arcade stick. Now, so far, I've put forward a very compelling argument for this to be the last controller you ever buy. Why would you buy a regular arcade stick if you can have one that is this thin? Well, the answer is in here. Like I gave you the hint earlier, you can hear this. Mine is clicky, but that's because I've modified it. Now, in order to make this module as low profile as it is, they've done a number of really interesting things. First of all, they've made this arcade lever removable. You can actually pull this off. There's no locking mechanism at all. It literally just comes off like a magnet. Now, I've never been in a situation where I've been playing so violently that it just came off by accident, but you can see that it could happen. The second thing is when you actually look inside the controller itself. Now, I'm really impressed by how much they were able to cram in here, because if you look at the innards of this stick, you can see that they have put low profile key switches in here. Now they are able to use this giant actuator which is in here. If I take this restrictor gate out of the way, you can actually see what's inside. There are just regular low profile key switches, and the main switches that come with this controller are these. They're the ones that they use in the C16 as well, and I think they feel really nice in a leverless controller because they're very, very quiet. But for an arcade stick, is that what you want? Do you want your arcade stick to be quiet? By default, the X stick comes with 4 of these wind engine key switches, and they're not clicky. I think this is a bit of a mistake, because when you're using an arcade stick, I love to feel the clicks of the micro switches to know that I've actually done the inputs, especially in a game that has a lot of technical inputs. Now, I do realize that there are people who prefer their controllers to be absolutely silent and they don't rely on the switches, but in an arcade, most people, this is what they're used to, having actual clicky switches. I actually Frankensteined these switches out of my 8-bit DOE leverless controller. But fortunately, if you have one of those, they're the same switches. When I changed the key switches out for these clicky switches, it was a much better experience. I would actually say that I was incapable of doing my combos without clicky switches. But when I put clicky switches in here, suddenly everything changed. I was able to play, I was able to win matches, I was able to actually do basic combos. But there is one thing that looks a little bit strange. As you can see, one of these key switches hasn't been changed. And the reason is that you can pull all of these key switches out and they're on a ribbon cable. Now that's also a bit of a red flag, because arcade sticks, modding, you want it to be nice and like resilient. You want it to be able to take a beating and not break. So anything with a ribbon cable has me feeling a little bit nervous. It's like, okay, I want to change these key switches. Okay, let's be really, really careful not to break the ribbon cable. Even if you take this ribbon cable out, you can only really access 1, 2, 3 of the switches, and the up key, I don't think you can really take this out unless you undid this screw as well and you took out the like PCB portion. But I didn't want to go that far because I was like, if I actually break it, I won't be able to finish this review. Maybe I'll experiment after this video is done. If you want to see that, just let me know in the comments. So if you want my actual honest opinion about this, I think by putting clicky switches in this, it makes it actually usable. Not my favorite arcade stick of all time, but it makes it way more usable than when you have these wind engine switches in it. And even though I've put these clicky switches in here, they don't require much resistance, so that means you also don't really feel them that strongly. You do feel them, but not as strongly as Sun or JLF using the micro switches that are in those, which I think are usually like Omron switches. Listen, I've said a lot of positive things and maybe some worrying things about this controller, but here's the down low on the Hautepad X X-Stick module for this controller. I think that at this price, you are still getting an absolutely insane controller. Even if you buy the full whacked out kit, I don't know if it's like $350 if you buy with all the modules and stuff, you could conceivably buy this controller with the whole works, everything in it, and it would still come to the same price as a very premium regular arcade stick, which is only an arcade stick. You would have a controller that is every controller all at the same time, plus some combinations that you just cannot get with a lot of other controller designs. It does frustrate me that the switches that are included in the controller are not clicky, and it does also frustrate me that it's not that easy to swap them out. They're not soldered in, they are hot swappable, but it's got a ribbon cable. It's not a hard mod, but it does, for a beginner, it's a little bit like, am I going to break my investment? I feel like clicky switches would have made this arcade stick significantly better. And not only that, I feel like clicky switches with more resistance. So with the X stick, I feel like Haute42 has kind of shown their hand. They are a fantastic hardware company. They're always innovating and they're always giving us plenty of options and at incredibly affordable prices. But with the X stick, I think they've kind of shown they don't have a lot of heritage in the fighting game scene. But what they've made here is incredible. It's way better than a lot of the cheap, tacky stuff that you get at the shops. I'm really excited to see what happens with a version 2. I think if you want to pick up version 1, you've already got a really good place to start. Listen, those are all my opinions on the Hautepad X, but let me know, what do you think? Is this the future of arcade sticks, or should we go back to having dedicated boxes so that we've actually got layouts and positions and controls in exactly the right places? Let me know in the comments section below. I've been NihongoGamer. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I've been excited about making this for quite a long time, and I've finally done it. That's all for today. I'll see you real soon.